Hi, I'm Melinda Van Fleet, and welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. I'm a success coach, speaker, and business consultant, and my husband Ryan and I were laid off at the same time 10 years ago. We moved to the Florida Keys without jobs, not knowing anyone, hardly any money, and we never even been here. But we made it, and now we're living our best lives. And all along on our journey, I've said that someday when we get our quote-unquote shit together, we will help others. And since then, we've both done a lot of self-work and built successful businesses. So that day is here, and one of my ways of paying it forward is through this podcast. Each week, my intent is to be relatable and bring you tactical tips, tools, share my learnings and stories that can help inspire or transform you wherever you are in your career or general life and make an impact. I strongly believe that if I can do it, you can do it too. So what's stopping you? Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. I am super excited that you are all here with us today. I have a very, very incredible guest and friend that I have met this year. When COVID started, we were in the same group together in a Facebook group, in a class, and I have just really come to love and appreciate her. Her name is Marie Faulkner. And Marie is a clinical RTT, hypnotherapist, and life coach who does change work. And she specializes in something very cool that we're going to talk about today that I had done last week, which is called an other life regression. It can also be referred to as a past life exploration. They're similar, and Marie will walk us through some of the variances, but and obviously how mine turned out. But she specializes in that, and it was just a super cool experience that she shared her gift with me, and I can't wait to dive in and talk about that. So welcome, Marie.
Hello, so happy to be here, Melinda. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. So why don't you share with the audience a little bit about your background and a little bit about what you do, and then we'll kind of dive into the goods.
Sounds good. So interestingly enough, I was doing something completely different about 4 years ago, although I've always been interested in hypnotherapy, past life regression. I was working with federal government, doing a management level job, and really enjoying my career. But suddenly I felt that it wasn't enough, and that there was a lot more for me to explore in another realm. And this is how I fell into what I'm doing now. And what happened is I first started with the transpersonal work. I did some work on myself, and I did some courses, interesting training courses to learn more through personal mastery, shared wisdom, where I could, through my own personal knowledge and experience, extend it to others. And this is how I found Marissa Peer, who is known for her rapid transformational therapy, hypnotherapy. And I knew right there and then that this was something I wanted to explore and train in. So I went to LA and I did a live training with her. I'm so very fortunate to have had that opportunity. And that has completely transformed my life. I left my my government job and took on this new career that rapidly developed. And as I found hypnotherapy to be a real great way to do change work, in doing that work and attracting clients who wanted to make some changes, deep level changes, the type that need to be looked at, for example, limiting negative beliefs, things that are holding us back from achieving our heart's desires. I found that the rapid transformational work through hypnotherapy was giving fabulous results. And not very long after, I decided that past life regression, which was coming out in the work anyway, because we were regressing not only to childhood events, which interestingly enough, Melinda, is where a lot of these limiting beliefs, negative habits, and patterns establish themselves in the first 7 years of life.
Mm-hmm. I believe that.
Some people actually were naturally regressing to past lives. And that piqued my interest. And this is where I decided that I wanted to make it more of a specialty and offer it as, therapy in its own right, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a journey, and it's been an exciting journey. And here I am today speaking with you about these wonderful methods that one can use to uncover and even heal things that have been hidden in the background. A lot of people who are seeking healing from physical, emotional, and mental illnesses have been looking a long time before they come to hypnotherapy to get some resolution. And of course, regression is one way of doing it. And past life regression doesn't only limit itself there, it can also go into future lives. So I like to now coin it more like other lives regression or other lives exploration, which I think is a much better way of looking at the journey that we do as we uncover these, how would I say, fractal parts of ourselves, almost as if there are many different versions of ourselves, as you know, that can actually manifest or affect our current lives. And this is what we do through this exploration.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever done a other lives exploration on someone who really didn't understand the fact that we all, have our souls have had different journeys? And how did you address that? Has that come up with you?
Yes, I think that there is definitely a belief system there that we all adhere to different belief system. The most common one is that we only live one life, and when we do pass, we remain in the spirit world, and that we all believe, or our culture has, how would I say, explained to us that because of our three-dimensional reality, that we have a past, something that's behind us, a present, and a future, something that's yet to come. However, quantum physics are now showing that, past, present, and future is all happening in the now. So I always tell my clients it's not really important that you adhere to one belief or another. In order to enjoy your exploration is to be able to glean and get the insight you're looking for, and whether you believe that this actually took place in a past life somewhere in the Renaissance era that you can go and verify, or one that just simply was just as moving that cannot be verified, is unimportant. Mm-hmm. What's important is the result and the type of healing that you can get from doing a past life or future life regression. I think it's most interesting. And if you're not seeking it for healing purposes, it can also bring forward further understanding as to hidden talents, for example. Like perhaps there's, in another life, you might witness yourself playing the violin. And then after awakening from that past life regression, you can, I've seen this happen where people find their talents by simply going to, in this example, going to pick up a violin and noticing that you have a natural innate talent to play the violin within very little time to become very adept
Wow.
playing that instrument. So it can be very exciting in that perspective too, or uncovering a habit that has been plaguing you. Like, for example, some people are very tight with their money
Mm-hmm.
and they feel that they're always in scarcity. And these instances, often people will uncover past where they had very little and they had to scrape by life, and it is something they've carried over into their current life. So just simply witnessing that life and understanding that is not something that you need to hold on to anymore can be very liberating.
Yeah. People already struggle and find help for dealing with situations that they remember in this lifetime, right? So
Yeah.
I think it just opens up a whole other level of awareness, especially if you can't get to the bottom of what is holding you back now. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I've done the work and I'm still getting these blocks. It is
Mhm.
definitely an advanced tool to really help push through and break that down. I think it's amazing.
Yes, it is. And it's fascinating how everyone has a very different experience because we're all so unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's
That,
what was interesting to me. So you gave me two options. You said we can do a tour
yes.
or we can work towards solving something. Is that how you would have put it? Because I know
Yeah.
tour.
Yes. Yes. A lot of people have sort of a desire to have a certain outcome. I want to resolve this issue for sure. And it can be, as I said, it can be physical, emotional, mental ailment that you currently have. And so in your case, you're like, hey, I'm going to take that curious look into, so it's got like a exploration we call being the tourist.
Yeah, and I want to preface for anyone listening, especially if you've never done anything like this, and I'll just speak on behalf of Marie because I'm really hopeful that some of you decide to call her and do a discovery call because she's amazing. But Marie was just so warm and open about sharing what the experience was going to be like. So it was never intimidating or scary or any of those feelings that someone might have. And I'd be like, oh, that's kind of, no, it was just really easy. She set it up to be fun and just was very encouraging and answered all questions. So I do want people to know that because I know sometimes the fear of, the fear of the unknown, might hold someone back from trying something. And that's why I love doing this podcast and having various guests on the podcast that have these beautiful, unique gifts and how they share them, because I think it's great if you can use these tools to live your best life now. Like, why wouldn't you want to? That's how I feel. So when I heard about Marie's gift and what she shares and does, I was like, okay, sign me up. I haven't done this yet. We got to do this. And like personally, I knew personally that I'm very fortunate / have done the work. So, personally, I don't have an ailment. I'm lucky. However you want to bucket that. And then number two, I've done a lot of work on my childhood and my family. So I didn't want to, it wasn't necessary to go down that path again for me. So for me, when she said I could just take a tour, I was like, well, heck yeah, I'm like super curious. Like, let's see what the tour is about. Like, let's explore it from a tour aspect with just an open mind a positive, open mind to just see what comes up, to see what my higher self brings to show me, and go through the experience. And Marie's an amazing guide. She really knows her shit in terms of like what to ask and how to, keep it going. So that was a really cool learning experience to me too, as just, being someone who's, who's an active student, I guess you could say, in terms of learning about this tool and methodology. So yeah. So my experience, and Maria, I would love for you to jump in as I start to share, kind of give your perspective, and then maybe how some things go for different people. Was, to me, I didn't really dig into the past. I felt that I was myself as I was looking at various scenes, and that might be different for some people. And I saw a lot of green, which I've had happen before when I was hypnotized for money blocks several years ago. I also saw a lot of green then, and a big white house. So I felt like I was, from what I can tell, just those were things I love and I cherish. I want more of in my future. So, yeah. So what's your diagnosis of me? I don't know if that's the right
Yeah. So what I find very interesting, and, we talked about this earlier before we started the podcast, is that sometimes things come to us like flashes. And in your case, you were flashing into scenes. And again, it's sort of like a very interesting language, the language of the dream, the language of the unconscious mind is all about metaphors. It's using all five senses. You probably noticed that I was guiding you to pick up in all your senses what you could feel, what you could see, what you could taste, what you could touch.
Mm-hmm.
The symbolism is also very important. And because it's all uniquely, yours, I'm there to guide you. But, during the session, you will feel these intuitive hits. What's important, and I think you probably noticed, I was always guiding you back to not analyze on the spot what's going on. Because what we do want to share with the audience is that you are fully aware as I'm taking you through the exploration. You are able to converse with me.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
And so all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. It's because you're allowing me to bring you through this journey. And all I'm there to do is redirect you to the language of the unconscious so that you can uncover something. And these things can come to you like a hit, like a flash, like a knowingness while you're in the session. Can also, after receiving the session, and I don't know if we told the audience, but it was just happened last week. So you have still some time to unravel. And I think that, interestingly enough, you might want to share some of your insights as to, this exploration might very well be more of a future life than a past life regression. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, I would definitely say that. And I felt that, even during and after, because as I've shared with the audience before, I'm very claircognizant. So like this knowing and what I've already put out there as far as manifesting what, my vision is for my husband and I for the future. So it felt that way to me, which I thought was fascinating, that's what my higher self chose to put me, in that place versus bringing me into the past with a bunch of junk that I've moved forward from. Right.
Yes. Very good point. Very good point. And this leads to me to another important point I'd like to bring up is that we don't typically choose. We can have an intention, but usually our unconscious will bring up the most important scenes that we need to see. So me, even myself as a guide, I cannot lead you to go to a scene that I believe would be the most important one. So really, it's a wonderful, empowering feeling, because you're being guided more by your higher self, if you will, or your higher mind, than, your mechanical brain that is habituated to think and analyze and look consciously at things from more of a judgment perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's also a wonderful opportunity to see another aspect of ourselves, the aspect that we don't often allow to speak, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're right. You had asked me some preliminary questions,
Mm-hmm.
but in no way, shape, or form did I feel you were, guiding towards that. You really just let it be open. And I think that, sometimes people, and I'll use this example, if you have a psychic reading, you don't want to share too much with the psychic because you don't want them to be able to, guess, right? You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
so that was definitely just, adding on to what you were saying a bit earlier, a really interesting factor was that my mind just went to where it wanted to go. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
led or dictated into
Mm-hmm.
something. And, I had honestly, not as like some big intention, my intention was really just open. And that's normally how I approach any type of spiritual methodology or tool, however you want to bucket that. But I did think that it would go into past lives. I guess that's just because we've been calling it that, right?
Yeah, which is, I find it a little bit misleading. That's why I've really, changed my title, because it's much more inclusive to say other lives.
Mhm. And I love that because it does go into the whole quantum physics. And I think more and more people are becoming aware or awakening to the fact that it, is really how the world it is, people. Like, and the more you can like embrace that, recognize it, just I think the knowingness of that as potentiality is huge. So yeah, so this was just another example that I have in my bucket of, yeah, I truly believe in quantum physics, and there you go. This was a great
Mm-hmm.
example of that.
And the other thing, if you don't mind me adding to what you've already said, is that now that you've had that experience, there's nothing that stops you from inviting more from your unconscious mind. Before you go to bed, you can ask it specific questions. Can you give me more clarity on the greenery that I witnessed, or the color green that I witnessed? By inviting your unconscious mind to deliver more message through the sleep state, often people wake up with the knowingness of, answering the question that they asked before falling asleep. So that's another really great way to expand already the richness that you've gotten from the exploration. And you can do that through meditation as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's great. I wrote that down actually, and I'll put that in the show notes so people can uh, remember it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I like to write statements like that down in my journal until I like get it to memory. So please give me more
Yeah.
clarity on the, blank for whatever, whatever someone out there is
Yes.
asking. But for me, it would be on the greenery, on the home,
Yes.
the things that I saw. I saw a pool, which I love pools. If anyone knows me, they know I love pools. So I'm like, oh, I saw a pool. Yay. So that's like good. But yeah, so that's really cool. I love that. I love whenever you can give a very direct tip or tool that people
Yes.
commit to memory and really use it and put it into action. Thank you for sharing that, Marie.
You're welcome.
So yeah, so what are some other, just, briefly, obviously don't name names, some other things that maybe people have had come up so people could understand just some different examples if they're kind of curious and thinking that this might be something they want to try, but they've only heard my experience.
Yes. Well, what's interesting is a lot of times, the unexplainable things like allergies is a big one. Many people suffer from allergies, and doesn't always happen, but through other lives regression, you can sometimes witness something, a life that might have been responsible to give you that reaction to a specific food. For example, if somebody was working in a environment, a toxic environment, with ink and paper, they might just carry that over into this current life and be allergic to, even just paper or even just ink because of that. They actually died of that exposure to toxic material in another life, if you will.
Wow.
So that becomes very evident when you witness it, because as we were talking, it's very vivid. Usually when you're seeing yourself, it's almost as if you are that person. And, maybe Melinda, you want to speak to that. When you go back, you can either look at it objectively as the observer, right? You can have two positions, which is interesting because we have that two positions in our current life. We can become the observer of our lives in action, and we can also be much more in the action, right? And the same holds true when we're witnessing a past or future life, is that we are actually embodying. And you can usually feel it at a guttural level. Oh my gosh, that's what happened. Or sometimes people, they were poisoned by eating chicken that was undercooked, and that sort of stays and is carried over to this life. And so it's interesting because you described your experience as very unique to yourself. And perhaps like there wasn't like this outright, oh my goodness, aha moment. But I have clients who have those very direct aha moments, like this explains it all. And sometimes just by looking and seeing that life, it gives you the ability of letting it go. You don't need to own it anymore. Sometimes we do forgiveness work because it's required, because you see that perhaps the person that you're not getting along with in this lifetime, in another life, they were a person that persecuted you. And so there's that forgiveness work that needs to take place. And have you ever met someone you just don't know why you don't like them? You just don't like them?
Oh, yes. And my husband does all the time. So
yeah, if you have a business,
we do have this discussion because Ryan's clairsentient, and he just he'll immediately just no. And he knows that it's from some other run-in.
Yeah, and sometimes it's as direct as being not even of this lifetime, because these are strangers, right?
Totally.
And so that can also give clarity. There was one individual that I thought was really interesting that I worked on, and she had a stepfather situation, which is not unusual to have a discord with a stepfather. But in this case, it was more than that. It was very guttural, very sort of a hateful relationship, if you will. And while going on a past life journey, she uncovered that, because you can actually see the soul, that this person was another person who had been responsible for taking her life.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yep.
So when she was able to know that it wasn't even her current day stepfather, it was that other lifetime that this had taken place, she was able to, even by witnessing it, was creating a lot of release and relief, if you will,
Sure.
because it had nothing to do with her currently. It had everything to do with the past life. And usually when somebody has taken your life, there's like a karmic contract, if you will, because we always play both sides of the coin. Sometimes we do kind actions, and sometimes we have lives where we've done terrible actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we should not judge ourselves, because this is a plane. This human experience is an opportunity for us to learn our lessons. And sometimes we choose to come through life and work at a karmic contract level with individuals to help them achieve the goal of forgiveness, or to help them live humility or experience humility, or whatever it is that we need or decide that we want to experience in this lifetime. And that's another whole other podcast, is how we do lives between lives, where we decide what we want to come and create in this world. Mm-hmm. And if there's anything I want to leave the audience with, is how we are all so uniquely important, and how we need to understand that we come here for a very important reason. And we need to understand that we're gifted. We're all gifted, and that we all need to express our gifts. And the only way we can to express our gifts is to go past our negative limiting or beliefs that are stopping ourselves to express ourselves to our highest level of expression. Mm-hmm. And so these types of experiences can often allow you to see and know that you're much greater than what you think you are.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's something I'm going to write about it first, but a term I heard yesterday when I was in a live virtual summit just kind of sent me into oblivion. And I'm going to podcast about it in 2 weeks. But yeah, thank you for remaining on a positive railroad track, and that we all should be thinking positively and, working towards, being our best selves and positive things in the future. So I want to share this too. And I hadn't said this aloud to you. And that is, and you touched on it, which is, I want to bring this alive to the audience, and then I'll explain why. When I was working with Marie, the majority of the time, yes, I felt I was in like a future, I felt I was in my body. Like she kept saying, are you in your body? And I kept saying, yes, I feel like it's me. And she would ask, how do I feel? And I always just felt good. Like I always felt good. I felt at peace. And that's how I do believe that that's where I am. Like I am really good. I'm in a good place. I'm at peace. I've worked on tons of shit for the last how many years. And Marie, you asked me, I can't remember how you phrased the question, but you asked me to think of something from the past, and what would, what came to mind, like what was the first thing I saw? Mm-hmm. And I did see something. And when I saw that picture, when I saw that frame, I was looking at it from a distance. So it's fascinating that, yes, during this process, even though it's my first time, I really, hadn't talked to anyone about it to hear their experience. I truly was going into this blindly and openly. There is a noticeable difference when you're going through the process between looking at something, from the past, you're looking at it, versus feeling mm-hmm. like you're in it. It's definitely, you can feel the difference. So I hadn't shared that with you. I forgot. But,
yes.
But I definitely knew the difference.
Mm-hmm.
When that was happening. So it's
Mm.
fascinating. So if anyone chooses to contact Marie and do something like this, I would say that I was like, and this is because how I am as a person, going, oh, am I doing this right? Is this like unveiling itself correctly? Like, am I really experiencing the process? So that was like one of my, probably the only, let's say, fear, I don't like that word, but fear I had was, am I going through this correctly? But
Yeah, and that's normal because it as you said, you're pretty new at this, and
Mhm.
so our conscious mind wants to always understand, like, am I doing this right? And that's a normal place to be. um, I find that a lot of my clients that come to me for the first time have that same apprehension.
Mm,
And that's okay, because after the experience, that's where the reward comes in, because you can say, oh, well, it wasn't as bad, because we all been sort of trained to think that hypnosis is like a loss of control, right, where we
yes. Oh,
just
so sad.
we're going to slide down the slippery slope, and but it isn't at all, because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, and you can and wake up at any moment in time and be in full consciousness, right? It's just yourself allowing yourself to go deeper, at a deeper level, to gain more insight. But we typically feel more comfortable at the conscious level, where we're applying our analytical mind, right? Am I doing this right? That's the analyst in you.
Yes, totally.
And then the judgment, is, am I doing it right? Which is just judgment, that the conscious mind, that's its role, right? Is to judge and analyze.
Right.
And so all that to say that it's a normal sort of part of learning. And I'm sure that it has dispelled a lot of the mystery of hypnosis after your experience. This past experience, would you say, Melinda, that
Yeah.
now you would feel differently going in?
Yeah, now that I've technically, even though both experiences were from a different level. So like in 2018, I was hypnotized, and then this was more of like a different guidance process, but still you go under a hypnosis, right? So yeah, I would
Yeah,
say the more just like anything, right? The more you
yeah,
do something, the more comfortable, and you stop that analytical, am I doing this right type of thought process. So yeah,
yeah.
so the third time, heck, I'm just gonna be an expert and go under.
Yes.
So, well, this was fantastic. I just appreciate you so much. I really hope the audience enjoyed this. I really hope that that this is something that's right for them, or even if they just want to noodle on it. Sometimes you end up noodling on something, and then you keep getting signs and signals, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to call that Marie. It's time now. I'm going to try this. So is there anything else you want to share? And definitely let everyone know how they can connect with you.
Well, yeah, I think what I want to share is that really, my business called Oracle Soul Talk is all about empowering people, so that they can express their full potential. And I use this past life or other lives exploration, if you will, to facilitate that process. And in that journey, we often uncover some amazing information that allows you to redirect your life in what your heart's desires are. Right? We all have sometimes felt that we are being held back, or that we're stuck, and that we're unable to pass over that threshold that's keeping us locked in to old patterns and old negative limiting beliefs and habits that are running our lives. So this is what I do. I allow people to unlock themselves, if you will, and more importantly, empower themselves to go forward. Because after I see people, I like to think that I only see people once or twice, because that's all that's really needed for them to take flight. And if you are interested, I offer free discovery call where you can bring your curiosity to the table through a virtual Zoom call, or an audio call, whatever works for you. We can talk about the process, and I can learn more about what you'd like to do, because again, it's very individual, very unique to yourself, and find out if this is something that you want to take further.
Awesome.
So by all means, give me a call. I look forward to speaking with you.
Yeah. And I will, of course, put all this information in the show notes. So thank you. Thank you so much. I just really appreciate you. I'm so glad we've connected and become friends. And I, of course, appreciate you being on the podcast and doing other lives. I'm going to call it other lives, because I didn't have technically a past life, other life exploration with me. It was amazing. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melinda. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me see.